In the flood world, under the Buzhou mountain. Brother Chen, last time you said that there would be a great calamity in heaven and earth, is there any basis for this? Now that the Dragon Han cataclysm has just passed and the flood world is at peace, how could there be another cataclysm? A pretty-looking woman looked at the white-clothed youth in front of her and softly inquired. Miss Nvwa, the heavenly Tao is flawed, and there is more to lose than to make up for. The youth opened his mouth and said. The woman named Nvwa shivered slightly around her body and murmured in a low voice, there is a deficiency in the heavenly Tao. As Xiao Nvwa fell into deep thought, the youth looked up at the sky, a touch of bitterness flowing from the corners of his mouth. His name was Qin Xian, originally an ordinary office worker on Earth. Just because he attended the wedding of his hairdresser, he drank a glass of wine and passed out. When he woke up, he realized that he had crossed over to the flood. This is also even so, people crossing the flood either equals root extraordinary, or have a system. And Chen Xian. To system no system, to root foot no root foot, miserable into a only Shenxian realm small white dragon. Nowadays, although the flood is not to the point where the saints are all over the place and there are as many greats as dogs, but there are also many greats. Flood realm has the earth immortal, heavenly immortal, true immortal, Xianxian immortal, Taiqing Xianxian, golden immortal, Tai golden immortal, Dala golden immortal, quasi-saints, saints. The Xianxian immortal realm was, to put it badly, a bigger mole cricket that people could crush with one hand. And what's more unlucky is that he wore it at the wrong time. Surprisingly, it was the time when the Dragon Han catastrophe had just passed, and the Dragon clan cooled down and became street rats. So his dragon identity, but became a burden. This Nima, screwed ah. But fortunately, he had just crossed over right at the foot of Buzhou Mountain, near Mother Nuwa's dojo, Fengqi Mountain. This place was under the patronage of Mother Nuwa, and there was very little strife, and it was also relatively safe. So Qin Xian simply settled here, people live simply, but he is good, directly to nearly 1,000 years, did not go out even a step. Because Qin Xian familiar with the flood plot know how terrible the flood. After the dragon's great catastrophe, there are still a few times in the flood, even if it is a little bit of karma, it can also let him die without a burial place for this little dragon. Life is the greatest in the heavens and the earth. And this woman called Xiaowa, who was befriended by Qin Xian by chance, was considered to be one of the friends that Qin Xian had made over the past 1,000 years. Every time Xiao Nwa came over, he would blow smoke up Xiao Nwa's ass. As long as little Nvwa was shocked, he felt a not-so-small sense of accomplishment. Fellow Daoist Chen, could it be that the Dragon Han cataclysm was designed by the heavenly Tao? After a while, Nvwa asked in surprise. Sort of. Qin Xian retracted his gaze and returned. Sort of? Little Nvwa frowned, this ambiguous answer puzzled her. Ah, Miss Little Nvwa, the heavenly cheat does not dare to say more. Qin Xian laughed, although he would brag to Nvwa, there was a limit to how. Besides, if he finished all his words this time, what would he take next time to pretend to be a bully? However, he had studied the inner workings of the various quantum robberies of the flood. He found that those mass robberies were designed by the heavenly Tao in order to make up for itself. Just like the Dragon Han Great Robbery is Luo Shua in order to kill to prove the road provoked, but it is not without the heavenly Tao's push and pull. The original intention of the heavenly Tao is to borrow the hand of Luo Shuhu to weaken the three tribes, and then force Luo Shuhu to build the devil world, perfect the flood, for the future of their own plans to prepare. As a result, he accidentally played a collapse, so that the Luo Shua angry blowing up the western veins, the flood world suffered heavy losses. Later on, Hongjun merged with the Tao, and those quantum robberies were more successful than one at a time. Hearing this, Nvwa was slightly disappointed as she changed the topic. Then does Brother Chen know when the next great calamity will be? When someone becomes a saint, the next great tribulation won't be far away. Counting on it, someone should become a saint in the near future. Chen Xian smiled. The Dragon Han cataclysm had ended, and it was time for Hongjun to become a saint. Saint? What kind of realm is that? Nvwa was slightly startled. Those who achieve the great Luo have a golden body that is immortal, but there is also the danger of perishing. Only by becoming a saint can one not be worn out by 10,000 tribulations and live forever with the world. Chen Xian murmured. Below a saint, everything is a mole cricket. Chen Xian's words were like morning bells and drums that kept echoing in Nvwa's mind. She then left, forgetting to greet Chen Xian as she left. Seeing Nvwa's disoriented appearance, Chen Xian shook his head and sighed, This girl is good at everything, but she's just too wishy-washy. Is this kind of thing something that an existence like us should consider? However, Chen Xian didn't know that Nvwa left and flew all the way to the top of the Buzhou mountain until she stopped in front of a large, golden, ancient hall. In the next moment, a burst of light erupted from little Nvwa's body. When she looked over again, her feet had, quite literally, turned into a snake's tail. If Qin Xian were here, he would have to drop his jaw in shock. A human body with a snake's tail. Little Nvwa was actually Nvwa. Little sister? At this moment, a handsome green-clothed man came face to face, and just like little Nvwa, he was also dragging a long snake tail. This one's identity was also called out, Fuxi. It was only when she heard this call that Nvwa snapped out of her musings, it's big brother. What are you thinking about? So absorbed. Fuxi teased. And Nvwa sighed and asked, Big brother, do you know what sainthood is? Has anyone in heaven and earth become a saint? Fuxi was slightly stunned. Saint? Where did you hear that? Originally, Nvwa wanted to answer truthfully, but her mind became coy when she thought of Qin Xian's face. It was like that feeling of having something good and not wanting people to know about it. It was a feeling that was a bit strange. Oops. Just tell me if you know what a saint is. Nvwa pouted. This scene stunned Fuxi. What was wrong with his little sister? Their brother and sister had been together for 10,000 years, he had never seen such a Nvwa. His own sister, it seems. Somewhat petulant? Gosh. He had discovered something. However, Fuxi still answered Nvwa's question. Last time when I went to the Kunlun Mountains to discuss the Tao with the three Qing, I seem to have heard that Laozi say that above the Dala is the saint. Then, big brother, has anyone become a saint? Nvwa asked again. Become a saint? How can it be that easy? The strongest person I've come into contact with is Laozi of the Kunlun Mountains. He is the incarnation of the great god Pangu's Yuanshan, and his followers are extraordinary, having already reached the peak of the great Luo. But according to Laozi, today's him simply hasn't even touched the threshold of saint. Fuxi sighed. But big brother, I've heard people say that someone will become a saint recently. Nvwa said. Fuxi laughed twice, then said, Fuxi, think that I am unrivaled in counting in the flood. If someone is going to become a saint, there must be an omen on my side. In my opinion, it is impossible for someone to become a saint recently. Little sister, you must have heard who is spreading rumors. Nvwa was also a bit shaken when she heard Fuxi say this, as she knew her big brother's skill. Could it be that Brother Chen was really mistaken? However, after a while, a voice rang in both of their ears. I am Hongjun, I have become a saint today, and I will preach in the chaotic purple sky palace in the heavenly beyond in 1,000 years, but all those who have the destiny can come and listen. Along with this voice, the entire flood wasteland was filled with immortal sounds, the earth was filled with golden lotuses, and visions appeared frequently, as if the entire flood world was celebrating. Nvwa dully said, Big brother, someone has become a saint, do you have any omens? Fuxi coughed lightly, his face reddening. Omen? There's a hair. If he had known that retribution would come so quickly, he wouldn't have said big words. Shame on him. Then Nvwa seemed to think of something and suddenly murmured, since someone really did become a saint, could all the other things Brother Chen said be true? Could there really be a great calamity coming? Fuxi asked in confusion, Brother Chen? What Brother Chen? Who is Brother Chen? However, Nvwa simply ignored him and rushed off to find Qin Xian, ignoring Fuxi's call. Standing at the entrance of Nvwa Palace, Fuxi was directly winded. Thinking of his little sister's previous actions, and then linked to what Brother Chen, he suddenly felt a burst of heartache. There was even a feeling of a cabbage that had been raised for many years being overpowered by a pig. And most of all, he didn't even know the name of that pig. It was too abominable. I, Fuxi, am unrivaled in counting, I don't believe I can't figure out which son of a bitch it is. Fuxi directly took out his spirit treasure and began to start looking for someone along Nvwa's karma line. But the next moment. Poo dash. A mouthful of blood directly spurted out of Fuxi's mouth, and even the spiritual treasure in his hand directly cracked. It's actually a fate reversal. Fuxi's eyes were filled with disbelief. As the Topinate holiness in the flood, nowadays Fuxi's realm is already in the late Dala stage. Throughout the entire flood, there are only a handful of existences that can make him suffer such a powerful backlash. This Brother Chen, in the end, what is the origin? Humph. No matter what you are, wanting to be my Fuxi's brother-in-law, it's not that easy. Fuxi gritted her teeth. Qin Xian didn't know about everything that happened in front of Nvwa Palace. But Hongjun becoming a saint, he was aware of it. However, he didn't care too much, this kind of thing had nothing to do with a weakling like him. 1,000 years, and only from early Shen immortal to mid-Shen immortal, the qualifications are still too poor. Qin Xian sighed. Actually, his pure-blooded dragon race status wasn't too bad, it was just that when he thought of those even more perverted innate sacred, he felt a sense of powerlessness. With this strength, it was difficult to defend himself. How good would it be if I had a system? Chen Xian sighed again. Ding! Retrieved that the host has entered the floodlands for 1,000 years, now activating the household signing system. Chen Xian? He first froze for a moment, and then almost didn't jump up in excitement. System, his system had actually come. System, what functions do you have? Chen Xian asked as he pressed down the excitement in his heart. This system is a house signing system. As long as you lock the location, you can sign in for rewards. Ding, scan that the host is located at the foot of Buzhou Mountain. Is it locked? Chen Xian immediately said, locked. Locking completed. Now the host's check-in range is 1,000 kilometers around the foot of Buzhou Mountain. Within this range, the host can sign in once a day to receive rewards. Detecting that the host has not signed in yet today, does he sign in? Sign in. This question certainly didn't even need to be thought about. Ding, signing in is complete. Congratulations to the host for completing the achievement first time signing in, now issuing a special reward. Retrieves newbie gift pack, now opened for the host. Host obtains Heaven's Path Tea Tree Leaves X10. The host obtains the 100 Arts, Zither Dao, Did Dao level, Chess Dao, Did Dao level. The host obtains the Quasi-Saint Cultivation Experience card X3. The host obtains the Physique, 9 Flare Dragon Body. The host obtains the Technique, Ancestral Dragon Technique, Enhanced Version. The host obtains the Extreme Innate Spiritual Treasure, Soul Swinging Lance, 12 Pure White Lotus. The host's cultivation level is raised to Early Golden Immortal. Crap. Chen Xian felt that if one word described his mood, it would be cool. It's really too cool, isn't it? As the system distributed this series of rewards, Chen Xian felt that all his grievances were gone. Then, the system voice sounded once again. The distribution of this reward is complete. Please pay attention to the host to check. This system was good. Homesteaders signing in to get rewards. Chen Xian felt that he could go. No, homestead until he died. Before he could check the system rewards, a sudden stream of warmth traveled around him. Bang! Only a soft sound was heard, and Chen Xian's mana immediately skyrocketed. Late Xian Immortal. Great perfection of Xian Immortal. Tai Ching Xian Immortal. During this process, majestic heaven and earth auras swept towards Chen Xian's surroundings, triggering no small commotion. At this moment, a golden immortal level eagle looked down and happened to gaze at Chen Xian. I remember that this little dragon isn't only at the Xian Immortal realm. Why did he make such a big commotion? Is it hard to believe that it has obtained some sort of heavenly treasure? Moreover, it seems that Mother Nuwa has strictly forbidden us from approaching this place, so there might really be some kind of treasure. Thinking of this, he became more and more determined in his speculation, and a touch of greed showed in his eyes. Although this was near the Nvwa Maiden's dojo, but chance moves the heart. The big deal is to seize the treasure and then disappear. Anyway, the flood is so big, even if Nvwa Nianjiang, what can she do to herself? This eagle was also a master of doing what it wanted to do, stirring its wings and stretching out its sharp claws to capture Chen Xian. How dare you! Nvwa, who was on her way, was in a murderous rage. That golden immortal level eagle didn't even have time to scream before it was directly crushed into pieces. If Fuxi was here, he would have been shocked. This sister of his had always been gentle and kind-hearted. It was definitely the first time that an eagle had been killed in a rage like this. Then, when Nvwa saw that a storm of spiritual energy was wrapping up Chen Xian, her face eased a bit. Looking at that handsome face, her heart throbbed again. Thousands of years ago, she had taken a walk at the foot of Buzhou Mountain in her innate Dao body and encountered this strange man. Originally, with her status and strength, she wouldn't have cared too much about a tiny Xian immortal. But on the contrary, this man was very interesting and could always say amazing things. After a while, they met and befriended each other in this way, and Nvwa treated this Chen brother as a close friend. But when Chen Xian was about to be in danger, that feeling of extreme worry and annoyance let Nvwa know. It turns out that after 1,000 years of being together, her feelings for Chen Xian had already exceeded that of a friend. Thinking of this, Nvwa's pretty face blushed slightly. At this time, Chen Xian was not moved by external objects, his eyes were tightly closed, and the 5 chi of God, soul, intent, prana, and essence were directed towards each other, entangled with each other, and gradually coalesced, transforming into a flower. The 3 flowers gathered at the top of the spiritual platform is now, the party is free Dala immortal. Chen Xian broke as a golden immortal, so only the lead flower of the 3 flowers was revealed. When Chen Xian opened his eyes, the aura storm had already dissipated. He was instantly a little afraid that he had just broken through or had been too adventurous. Fortunately, nothing had happened. Without realizing that the crisis had been lifted by Nvwa. Immediately afterward, when Chen Xian saw the young girl in front of him, gratitude surfaced in his heart. Many thanks to Miss Nvwa for protecting the Tao. Chen Xian arched his hand and smiled. Congratulations to Brother Chen for establishing himself as a golden immortal. Nvwa had turned into her little Nvwa appearance before Chen Xian woke up. She was a little worried that her making her identity known would cause a disconnect with Chen Xian. Chapter 3: The Chance of Becoming a Saint. Miss Little Nvwa, hurry over and have a seat. Chen Xian greeted. The location he occupied at the foot of the Buzhou mountain was small, but it had been set up well over the course of 1,000 years, and some simple furniture was still present. Nvwa was not polite and sat down facing Chen Xian. Brother Chen is able to establish himself as an earthly golden immortal, so it seems that he is also a person with deep blessings. Nvwa smiled. Seeing that Nvwa had no intention of pursuing the matter, Chen Xian breathed a sigh of relief. After all, the existence of the system was not very easy to explain. Before Chen Xian could speak, Nvwa bit her lip and said, Brother Chen, I would like to ask, how does the Great Tribulation you mentioned compare to the Dragon Han Tribulation? According to my speculations, the Dragon Han Tribulation is not considered the strongest amongst the Great Tribulations. Chen Xian said. This wasn't him talking big. The witch demon cataclysm had even broken the heavens and earth, not to mention that the 4 saints had come out later in the God-sealing measurement cataclysm, and Tong Tian had almost reenacted the earth, fire, wind, and water. These words fell on Nvwa's ears, causing her face to turn white. The Dragon Han Tribulation actually couldn't even be called the strongest? One must note that by the late stage of the Dragon Han Tribulation, the Western Earth veins were blown up, and thousands of downlords like her had died. Even now, she still had palpitations in her heart. Nvwa fixed her mind and said with a solemn expression, then, Brother Chen, how can we protect ourselves in the Great Tribulation? Heaven and earth are not kind to take everything as ruminants. I'm afraid that only a saint would dare to speak of self-preservation in the great calamity. Chen Xian got up and said in a loud voice. Now that he had obtained the system, that nebulous holy position, Chen Xian also felt that it was no longer out of reach. As for Nvwa, she once again fell into deep thought after hearing this. In fact, although Nvwa had extraordinary strength, she had never had any great ambitions. But after hearing some of the inner workings of the great calamity, there was a seed sprouting in Nvwa's heart. She wanted to become a saint. She wanted to have the ability to shelter her loved ones. The loved ones here were Fuxi, and now an extra Chen Xian had been added. Brother Chen, let me ask one more time, do you know how to become a saint? Nvwa's eyes revealed a resolute color. Become a saint? I do know a shortcut. Chen Xian said that Hongjun would preach in the Violet Sky Palace in the heavenly beyond and would set up 6 futons in the Tao Palace, and those who sat on the 6 futons would have the chance to become saints. Nvwa was directly shocked. In fact, she had only asked casually, but she hadn't expected Chen Xian to actually know the method of becoming a saint. But although this is a shortcut, this sainthood is determined by heaven. Chen Xian sighed and continued. The 3 Qing of Kunlun Mountain, the 2 of Sumeru Mountain, and our Nvwa on Buzhou Mountain are the ones who are determined by this heaven. This time, the entire person was numb. In fact, after Chen Xian said that someone had recently become a saint and had been confirmed, then associating it with Chen Xian's remarks over the past 1,000 years, she had a feeling. Brother Chen is afraid that he is not an ordinary person. Now that there was still 1,000 years before the sermon at the Purple Heaven Palace, how did he know so many insider secrets? However, when she heard that she had a share in the 6 chances of becoming a saint, Nvwa still had some doubts. Brother Chen, I know about the 3 pristine ones you mentioned. They are the Yuanshan incarnations of the great god Pangu, with strong fortune and extraordinary strength. That Mount Sumeru duo I have not heard of, but they should also be great powers. It's just that I don't know what qualifications Nvwa have to get the chance to become a saint. The flood wasteland was endless, and it was unknown how many great powers were hidden. The ones she was known to have were the 2 Golden Crow brothers who were born in the Sun Star, as well as that Duke of the East King and the Queen Mother of the West, and besides, her brother Fuxi was also stronger than her, so how did it come to be her turn? Ha ha! Miss Nvwa, it's you who belittles our Nvwa. If we really want to separate the two, Nvwa is stronger than all 3 Qing. Chen Xian laughed. Regarding Nvwa's praise, Chen Xian spoke from the bottom of his heart. Not to mention that in the future, Nvwa would still have to create people and mend the heavens, which would be of great merit to heaven and earth, but even now that he, Chen Xian, was under someone else's patronage, he couldn't say anything bad about them, could he? Does Nvwa maiden deserve to be rated so highly by you? Nvwa asked in a small voice. That's true, Nionya is the #1 goddess of the floodplains. Chen Xian only focused on letting his mouth drop, while little Nvwa girl had already lowered her head and blushed in shame. When Chen Xian noticed this scene, he secretly said in his heart that it was bad. It seemed like he had committed a major taboo, actually praising another woman in front of a woman. There had to be a way to remedy this. Miss Nvwa is good, but it's like being in a shrine, inaccessible, sacred and inviolable, less fireworks. So, compared to Nvwa, I prefer to stay with Miss Nvwa, Chen Xian said in a serious manner. At this moment, Nvwa's heart was like a deer in headlights. Brother Chen, was he confessing to her? Her face instantly turned even redder. If she accepted like this, would it seem like she was not being reserved? But Nvwa instantly became coy. At that moment, Chen Xian continued to ask, Miss Nvwa, is there anything else you wish to ask? Nvwa jolted awake, then hurriedly said, that. Brother Chen, are you going to the Purple Heavenly Palace? Not going, it would be better to sleep at home with that effort, Chen Xian casually said. The Purple Heavenly Palace was located in the chaos of the heavenly beyond, even the Tao Lords didn't dare to rashly intrude. And wasn't it good to sign in at home? What Purple Heavenly Palace to go to? Sleep. Nvwa was slightly startled again, she had actually heard a hint of disdain in Chen Xian's tone just now. A saint preaching a sermon, and he actually disdained it. It seemed that she had underestimated Brother Chen in this millennium. At the same time, she was somewhat fortunate. Thankful because if Brother Chen had gone, wouldn't he have discovered that she was Nvwa? When she thought of Chen Xian's comments about Nvwa earlier, she was just annoyed for a moment. It seemed that Brother Chen preferred being with Nvwa over Nvwa, and if Brother Chen knew that he had deceived him. When she thought of this, Nvwa didn't dare to think about it. She only had one thought right now, and that was that she absolutely could not let Brother Chen know that little Nvwa was Nvwa. Nvwa then added, Brother Chen, I may not be at Buzhou Mountain for the next few thousand years, so take care of yourself. She didn't want to miss out on the chances of becoming a saint in the Purple Heavenly Palace. Chen Xian sighed, it seemed that he had underestimated the attraction of chance to beings in the flood, and he understood. Although he wasn't going to go out of the Buzhou Mountain, he felt that he should do something. Chen Xian then flipped his hand and a 12-pin white lotus appeared in his hand. Miss Little Nvwa, this is a spiritual treasure that I obtained by chance, and I am sending it to you for defense. This was none other than the 12-pin white lotus of purity rewarded by the system, and besides being able to suppress qi, it was also one of the few defensive extreme innate spiritual treasures in the heavens and earth. It should be able to protect this girl safely. Looking at the exquisite white lotus, Nvwa was slightly stunned, thinking, Brother Chen is giving her a token of love? Then she was at a loss for words for a moment, and after half a day of fumbling around, she pulled out a small furnace, handed it to Chen Xian and hurriedly ran away. Looking at Nvwa's distant back, and then looked at the small stove in his hand, Chen Xian scratched his head, wondering, what's wrong with this girl? One could only say that straight men were too scary. Nvwa, who had left Chen Xian's dojo, transformed into a recluse, and even after flying to Nvwa Palace, her face was still burning. Brother Chen had confessed his love to her and even sent her a token of love. Nvwa's heart was overjoyed. Seeing Nvwa's joyful appearance, Fu Shi, who was waiting at the door, had his jealousy spilled. After a while, he suddenly remembered an important thing, which was to go with his little sister to the Purple Heavenly Palace to listen to the Tao. Let that son of a bitch go for now. Little sister, Fu Shi called out helplessly. Ah! It's Big Brother, Nvwa exclaimed. Fu Shi, can't you see a person as big as me? What's wrong with Big Brother? Nvwa asked. Sage Hongjun is going to give a sermon in the chaos in the outer heaven in 1,000 years, let's go together, Fu Shi said. Nvwa nodded positively when she heard the sermon in the Purple Heavenly Palace. Little sister, this time, the Purple Heaven Palace will hear the sermon with great powers gathered, make sure to bring the heaven refining furnace with you for defense, Fu Shi continued. Fu Shi Nvwa took form on the Buzhou Mountain, Fu Shi accompanied by the top-grade innate spiritual treasure Fu Shi Qin, while Nvwa accompanied by a small furnace named Refining Heaven. This furnace is not small in origin, it is a party of extremely high-grade innate spiritual treasure. However, Nvwa said with some hesitation, Big Brother, the heaven refining furnace, I'm giving it away. What? Fu Shi exclaimed in surprise. The heaven refining furnace was one of the few extreme innate spiritual treasures in the entire floodplain, with a huge value, and now the little sister actually said that she had given it away? After the surprise, it was immediately followed by Fushi's anger. Little sister, why are you so confused? Who did you give the furnace to? Did you give it to that what's his name Brother Chen? I knew it, I knew that he must have some intentions in approaching you. You take me to him and I'll get the stove back. Actually, Fushi still has one more thing left to say, get the stove back and I'll beat him to death. How dare you cheat my sister's feelings, are you tired of living? Big brother, calm down, it was me who voluntarily gave the heaven refining furnace to Brother Chen. We were giving each other gifts, and Brother Chen gave me something as well. Nvwa said with some displeasure. She didn't want to hear her big brother speak ill of Chen Xian. That won't work either, he definitely lied to you. Little sister, you're still too simple. Fushi said painfully. But Brother Chen gave me something I really like. Nvwa said as she took out the white lotus. In fact, even if Chen Xian gave Nvwa a wildflower, she would still like it. Fushi was dying of anger and said with hatred, I'd like to see what kind of crap he gave you. But without waiting for him to finish his sentence, his eyes were fixed on the white lotus in Nvwa's hand and he couldn't move. Stuttering, he said, extreme. Extreme innate spiritual treasure. Hearing Fushi's voice, Nvwa also noticed that the white lotus in her hand was extraordinary and subconsciously injected her spiritual energy into it. In an instant, the white lotus glowed brightly and hovered above Nvwa's head. For a moment, the entire Nvwa palace was illuminated, purple energy coming from the east. This is actually an extreme innate spiritual treasure that can suppress chi. Fushi's entire being was stunned. Extreme grade innate spiritual treasures were rare, but among them, spiritual treasures that could suppress chi fortune were even more precious. No, this thing is too precious, I'll go return it to Brother Chen. Nvwa slowed down and said. Don't. Fushi immediately stopped it, little sister, after taking it, how can there be a reason to return it? Besides, if you want to return it, you can wait until we've finished listening to the Tao before you return it, this lotus platform is more useful than the heaven refining furnace. Nvwa thought for a moment, that's true. Then let's call it a temporary loan of Brother Chen's spiritual treasure. Then she looked at Fushi and teased, Big brother, didn't you just say that what Brother Chen sent was broken? Fushi smiled sarcastically, little sister. He felt that he was just in conflict with that son of a bitch. But an innate spiritual treasure that suppresses chi wants to take my little sister down? No way. Little sister, let's depart. Buzhou Mountain is still a short distance away from the heavenly beyond. Fushi changed the topic and said. Good. Nvwa glanced towards the foot of the mountain before departing with Fushi. However, it wasn't just Fushi Nvwa who made a move. In the Kunlun Mountains, 3 reclining lights sped towards the heavenly beyond. 2 golden crows shook their wings in the sun star. A huge Kuan-peng flew out of the extreme north. Since the establishment of the flood, Hongjun could be said to be the first person to become a saint, and his sermon was destined to attract many flood spirits. Those who wanted to get a chance were not only those great powers at the low level, many Tai golden immortals and even existences below the golden immortal level wanted to try their luck. However, when they reached the edge of the heavenly beyond, no one dared to enter, simply because there was a strong wind blowing inside, capable of destroying one's flesh and etching one's soul. The Tao judges the mixed elements, and has seen the 2 instruments give birth to the 4 elephants. Chaos has never been a moral wonder, it all depends on the mystery of the mystery. The 5 chi toward the yuan spreads the wonderful method, and the 3 flowers gather together to perform the lifeless. When the crowd heard the 3 poetic trumpets ringing out, they saw the 3 old men from Qingzhou coming together. Immediately after that, the old man's head of heaven and earth Shanawon Linglong Pagoda, protecting the 3 people, just disappeared into the chaos. Going in, it was the Kunlun Mountain 3 Qing. A Tai golden immortal also followed suit, sacrificed his own protective spiritual treasure and broke in. Actually unharmed. This time, let the crowd boiled. It turned out that spiritual treasures could also block the wind. They hurriedly sacrificed their strongest spiritual treasures and also followed into the chaos. Of course, some people's cultivation was high enough and their spiritual treasures were strong enough, so they were able to withstand the wind and the chaos, however, more died in the wind. As for the vast majority, they were intercepted by the astral winds. Little sister, it seems that what Sage Hongjun said about having a destiny, strength accounts for the vast majority of it, let's go in. Fushi and Nvwa arrived. A white lotus enveloped the 2 and they too entered the chaos. After 1,000 years, nearly 3,000 people arrived one after another outside the purple heavenly palace in the chaos. A pair of powder-carved jade children appeared outside the palace, and when the crowd looked over, they realized that the two children were actually also the existence of Delo. Only to hear them say aloud, "The millennium has arrived, the purple heavenly palace opens." As their words fell, the gates of the purple heavenly palace opened. Those living beings who had come to listen to the sermon all dove in headfirst. The exterior of the purple heavenly palace didn't look big, but the space inside was endless, and even with so many people inside, it didn't seem crowded. Inside is filled with Xian Huang Qi, full of Taoism. If you practice inside for a day, it's worth 100 years outside. The crowd was secretly amazed and sighed that it was worthy of being a saint's dojo. And the next moment, they all looked towards the 6 futons on the main hall. Those who could come here were not stupid people, although they didn't know what these 6 futons, 6 positions specifically meant, but from the specialness, they knew that these 6 positions were not bad. My 3 brothers were transformed by the Panga Yuanshan. They are deeply blessed and deserve to occupy 3 bushels. 3 Chang Laozi stepped forward and said. Who didn't know that the 3 purities were one, and that each of them was a top-notch powerhouse? Those present didn't dare to speak even if they had objections. Moreover, there were 6 futons in the hall, and although 3 were occupied, there were still 3 more. However, another voice rang out next. I, Fuxi of the Buzhou Mountain, have come with my sister to listen to the Tao, and I too occupy a futon. Before Nvwa could react, Fuxi pressed her onto the 4th futon. When those innate saints placed their eyes on the 5th futon, they realized that the Kuanping of the North Sea had already sat on it with his extreme speed. As for the 6th, a red-robed figure also sat on it, the red cloud that had been pushed up by his friend Jin Yuanzi. In a moment, all 6 futons had owners, and seeing this scene, the rest of the people were dumbfounded. A bushel is gone, still play the fart ah. Thinking this way, everyone's hearts began to become unbalanced. But without waiting for them to make a move, the boy who had opened the door to the Purple Heaven Palace earlier walked over and said. By the Sage Lord's decree, within the Purple Heavenly Palace, movement is forbidden. Now, even if those people were unwilling, they could only press on. After all, no one dared to disobey the will of the sages. Big brother, with our strength, we can completely grab a bushel, should we? In the Great Hall, there stood 2 people wearing imperial robes, precisely the 2 Golden Crow brothers who had arrived from the Sun Star, Emperor Jun and Emperor Tai. Originally, the distance between the Sun Star and the heavenly beyond wasn't too far, and the speed of the 2 of them was definitely not too slow. But Di Jun has always been an ambitious generation, said this saint's sermon is a good opportunity to make more friends along the way. So they only arrived just after the Violet Sky Palace had opened, and were ultimately a step behind. This is the saint's dojo, let's wait and see what happens first. Di Jun responded. Dong Huangtai didn't say anything else either. However, none of the 3,000 guests in the Purple Sky Palace, including Fuxi, noticed the strange colors flashing in Nvwa's eyes. 6. There really are 6 futons in the Purple Sky Palace. Brother Chen was right again. Moreover, even I am sitting on a futon. But Brother Chen clearly said that the 6 futons belong to the 3 Qing, the Sumeru Mountain Duo, and me. However, the Sumeru Mountain Duo that Brother Chen said did not appear, and the other 2 futons were instead sat on by Red Cloud and Old Man Kuan Pang. Can't it be that Brother Chen also has times when his predictions are wrong? However, right at this moment, as the door to the Purple Heaven Palace was about to close, 2 wretched silhouettes rushed in. Everyone's eyes paid attention. However, the next moment, those 2 figures actually began to cry out. The 2 of us traveled day and night from the land of the extreme west, but we didn't expect to be one step too late. It seems that it's me, the West, who has no connection to the Great Tao and doesn't even have a seat. Yeah. In that case, it would be better to die headfirst on a pillar. The ones who came were none other than the West's Guiding and Junti. Seeing the 2 crying so miserably, everyone present basically revealed a look of disgust. These 2 people's cultivation level wasn't low, was it? How can they be said to be 2 Tao Lords? Why are they so shameless? Actually selling misery. However, I didn't expect that there were really people who ate up this set of paramount receptionist's words. 2 fellow Taoists, it was too hard for you to make it here, I'll give you my place. Red Cloud got up and said. Sage Red Cloud, you. Jin Yuanzi behind him was just about to open his mouth to persuade him, but it turned out the Taoist receiver slipped up and sat directly on the futon that Red Cloud had let out. That's just it. Jin Yuanzi couldn't say anything else. However, the 2 of them did not know enough, and Guiding looked at the rest of the people sitting on the remaining bushels. He knew at a glance that the 3 Qing were not to be messed with, and then he laid his eyes on the Fuxi siblings, only to be glared back by Fuxi. So, he was left with only one option, and that was Koan Pang who was alone. Fellow Taoist, you see that my senior brother is also working quite hard, why don't you also give a place? Scram! Koan Pang was directly furious. Fellow Taoist, their brothers went out of their way to arrive here to listen to the sermon, why don't you give way? Red Cloud advised from the side. Koan Pang almost exploded. It's fine for you fools to give way yourself, but you're actually persuading me to give way? However, without waiting for him to speak, Yuanshi, who was sitting in the second position, said in a cold voice, a person who wears hair and horns is also worthy of sitting with me? People are ruthless and don't talk much. Yuanshi directly brushed his mana towards Koan Pang. Originally, the Koan Pang was also a great power in the middle stage of the Great Luo, and was able to withstand this random blow from Yuanshi. However, I didn't expect that Jain, this old Nvwa, also took the opportunity to hit the Koan Pang with his magic power, directly knocking the Koan Pang off his seat. Junti found the opportunity and hurriedly sat on the futon. From the seat down from the Koan Pang face were angry green, but their own power is too weak to do anything, can only put these people on the grudge. However, he most hate is the Red Cloud, if not this bastard proposed to give up the seat, he can end up in such a situation. This scene of giving up the seat was a little complicated, but it was also between the flashes of lightning and fire. Nvwa asked to Fushi, brother, what are those two people who just sat on the futon? Fushi stifled a grunt and said, it's the Jain and Junti who came from Mount Sumeru in the west, little sister, you mustn't come into contact with these two people in the future, these two people are probably the most faceless guys I've ever seen. However, at this time, after Nvwa heard Fushi say that Junti and Guiding came from Mount Sumeru, her heart directly set off waves of shock. This should be the Mount Sumeru duo that Brother Chen was talking about. Then once again, the heaven-defined six that Brother Chen spoke of have hit the mark. Before Nvwa could continue to think, she saw a white-robed old man slowly walk towards the main seat. This old man was plain-looking, but no matter if it was a Taiyi Golden Immortal or a Tao Lord. As long as one looked at that white-robed old man, one would feel like they were deeply trapped in the supreme principle of heaven and earth. The first one to wake up was Laozi, who had the highest cultivation level. But he also broke out in a cold sweat as a result. As the head of the three purities, Laozi was naturally arrogant. Before he didn't come to the purple heavenly palace, he still felt that he was the top existence on the flooded earth. But the moment he saw Hongjun, he knew how small he was. The might of the saints was indeed as vast as chaos, at least this Delo of his own was unable to glimpse one or two. Wake up! Hongjun slightly raised his hand. The 3,000 guests of the red dust all woke up, and then looked at Hongjun's gaze, all of which were colors of awe and admiration. You and I have a destiny, this time I preach for 3,000 years, just as the number of the 3,000 of the great Tao, next, preaching begins. But the next moment, Hongjun lightly laughed and said, the law does not pass on 6 ears. Although everyone now do not understand, but still unanimously said, obey the saint law. And at this time in a barren mountain in the floodland, a monkey with 6 ears, making a listening shape suddenly screamed miserably, spat out a mouthful of blood, and then shot out. Counting the time, 1,000 years has come, Hongjun should have already started preaching. 3,000 years of preaching at a time, I don't know when little Miss Nvwa will be back. Chen Xian at the foot of the Buzhou mountain lay back in his chair and relaxed, beginning to miss the days when Miss Little Nvwa was still around a bit. As usual, Chen Xian hadn't gone out for even a single step during this 1,000 years, so he was either sleeping or signing in. In 1,000 years, he had signed in a total of 365,000 times and had gained a whole bunch of rewards. There were all sorts of techniques, pills, spiritual treasures, skills, spiritual plants and even merits, so it could be said that there were all sorts of things. Moreover, Chen Xian also discovered that there were actually gift packs for consecutive check-ins. For example, there was a gift pack for signing in for 10 years, and there was also a gift pack for signing in for 100 years, and he deduced that the further back he went, the more precious the things that were opened out of the gift packs. Although there were quite a few things that he got from signing in, the proportion of really good things was not much, but Chen Xian was already satisfied. And now, it was time to receive the Millennium Gift Pack. Chen Xian felt that he would definitely be able to open a grand prize. Ding, it has been detected that the host has signed in for 1,000 years in a row. Does he now open the Millennium Sign-In Gift Pack? Open it. As Chen Xian's words fell, he heard the system voice, come again. The host has obtained the Flood Spiritual Root, Innate Gourd Vine, complete. Crap! Chen Xian exclaimed in shock. The Millennium Signing Gift Pack was actually an innate gourd vine. He knew about this thing, it was one of the 10 great innate spiritual roots of the flood, originally growing on Buzhou Mountain. After maturing, it bore 7 gourds, each of which was a superb innate spiritual treasure, and even the soil under the gourd vine was 9 heavenly resting soil. It can be said that all of them are treasures. Of course, getting the treasure makes people happy, but Chen Xian is a bit overwhelmed at this time. This gourd vine and gourd are hot to hold. Because according to the original plot, those who took the gourd were not ordinary people. No matter whether it was the Three Qing or not, Nvwa, the Eastern Emperor, or the Red Cloud, they were all great powers of the world, and it was rumored that the last of the conceived treasure gourds had even fallen into the hands of Hongjun. In this instant, Chen Xian could be said to have made karma with 7 great powers, and inside there was also a Dao ancestor who had become a saint. Not to mention, when the time came, Nvwa would have to use the gourd vines and resting soil to create man. This didn't match his concept of living meticulously. Chen Xian was instantly a little flustered. However, at the moment he took out the gourd vine, the Three Qing and others in the purple heavenly palace suddenly surged with a sense of loss, especially Nvwa, as if she had lost some great opportunity. And just began to preach. Hongjun brow is also a slight wrinkle, want to explore the truth, but found that the sky is chaotic. After seeing that nothing could be calculated, Hongjun pressed down the doubts in his heart and began to preach to the crowd. Chen Xian at the foot of Buzhou Mountain panicked for a while before calming down again. People die egg to the sky, not die 10,000 years. This spiritual treasure had been taken, so he couldn't return it. Even if he didn't believe in himself, he had to believe in the system. The boat to the bridge is naturally straight. This gourd vine and the 7 gourds, Chen Xian then first threw them into a storage ring rewarded by the system. For the time being, they could not be used. Then Chen Xian sighed again. Speaking of which, the system wasn't stingy at all in terms of those spiritual treasures and whatnot, but it was a bit slower to raise his cultivation. Only after 1,000 years had passed did it raise his cultivation to the late golden immortal stage. If those innate beings in the golden immortal realm were to hear Chen Xian's thoughts, they would be afraid that they would be unable to resist hitting someone. 1,000 years across 2 small realms and you are still not satisfied, what do you want to do? However, just as Chen Xian sighed, a figure suddenly fell from the sky and landed right in front of Chen Xian's recliner, startling Chen Xian. Shit, how did a monkey fall down? That's right, it was a golden-haired monkey, and it didn't look as if it was in a good condition. This monkey had blood dripping from the corner of its mouth, its eyes were tightly closed, and its chest was rising and falling very weakly, as if it was going to hang up the wall in the next moment. Speaking of monkeys, the one Chen Xian was most familiar with was the great sage of Qitian, Sun Wukong, but that stone monkey hadn't even been born yet. This monkey was definitely not him. When he saw the golden-haired monkey with one ear divided into 3 flaps, he understood at once that this was the 6-eared macaque of the 4 monkeys of the mixed world. Rumor has it that the 4 monkeys are the Chaos Ape devil shells of the 3,000 devils, and the 6-eared macaque is the first of the 4 monkeys to be born. However, being the first to be born did not mean anything good, but was the beginning of the tragedy of the 6-eared macaque. At that time, the Chaos Ape Demon and the other 3,000 demon gods besieged Pangu, and died at the hands of Pangu, and their souls were dissipated, leaving only their shells to nurture the 4 monkeys. As a result, although these 4 monkeys possessed excellent talent, they did not have good inheritance techniques. Like the 6-eared macaque, although gifted, but there is no good gongfu for him to cultivate. And the flood was at a time when the inheritance within the race was being treasured. The 6-eared macaque was born in the flood for tens of thousands of years, but also rely on their own through the sky and earth eavesdropping talent, sewing and mending overheard some gongfu cultivation to cultivate to the realm of Tai Golden Immortal with great difficulty. This time, heard the saint preaching, the 6-eared macaque is ecstatic, but unfortunately the Tai Golden Immortal cultivation he does not have a good magic treasure, cannot enter the chaos beyond the sky. So he thought of using the natural ability to listen to the sermon. The result was punished by the Hongjun, broke the foundation of the Tao, forever trapped in the realm of Tai Golden Immortal, in the path of the Tao can no longer advance half a step. What's more, he was left by Hongjun. The law does not pass 6 ears speech, let him in the flood situation more difficult. Waiting for the Western quantum leap, directly killed by the Monkey King, really sad and pathetic. Meeting his fate, so I'll save your life. Chen Xian got up and stuffed a pill into the 6-eared macaque's mouth. This was the 9 Revolutions Soul Restoration pill rewarded by the system. Nowadays, the Tao of Dan was not yet flourishing, and a 9 Revolutions level pill was definitely the topmost pill in the flood. This 9 Revolutions Soul Restoration pill is rumored to have the effect of bringing the dead back to life. If it wasn't for the fact that he had gotten a lot from signing in, Chen Xian wouldn't necessarily be willing to give it to the 6-eared macaque. Monkey, wake up, wake up. Chen Xian lightly tapped twice, and the 6-eared macaque leisurely turned awake. The moment it opened its eyes, the 6-eared macaque alertly got up, and the moment it saw Chen Xian, it grimaced with a ferocious look. Who are you? Hey! You monkeys are so ungrateful. I saved your life, and this is how you repay your savior? By the looks of you, you wanted to use your natural aptitude to take advantage of the saint's sermons in the purple heavenly palace, and that's why you ended up like this. Chen Xian said. The six-eared macaque, on the other hand, was violently startled. How did you know? While surprised, the six-eared macaque's eyes were filled with grief and anger. Do you feel that it was Taoist Han Jun who was unjust? Chen Xian continued to ask. Isn't it? He clearly said that anyone with a destiny could go and listen, so why can't I listen with my divine powers? The six-eared macaque did not digress. The other person, Taoist Han Jun, said that it's the fated who go to the purple heavenly palace to listen to the sermon, and since you can't go, of course you don't count as a fated person. Chen Xian laughed. Humph. The six-eared macaque let out a muffled snort. In fact, he had already acknowledged Chen Xian's statement in his heart, but was just unconvinced in his heart. You monkey, your temper isn't small. Chen Xian said leisurely. However, he didn't really care. A monkey wouldn't be a monkey if it wasn't unruly. I'll pay you back for saving your life. This is the most valuable thing I have on me. I hope you treat it well in the future. Saying that, the six-eared macaque took out a black iron rod and placed it on the ground. At this moment, a look of reluctance appeared in his eyes. This was the only innate spiritual treasure in the six-eared macaque's hands, and it was also his companion weapon. To him, this iron rod was already like a companion in his heart. But this monkey is heavy on kindness and righteousness. Chen Xian's saving grace he wants to repay, thinking to use the most precious thing to repay. Seeing this monkey's appearance, and thinking of the six-eared macaque's tragic experience, Chen Xian said, "That's all, you take it back. A gentleman doesn't take what he loves." With a wave of his hand, the iron rod flew back into the six-eared macaque's hands. He had plenty of such spiritual treasures in his hands, so what was the use of another iron rod spiritual treasure? Of course, the six-eared macaque's actions also made Chen Xian feel much better. It seemed that this monkey was a person of great affection. Chen Xian's actions, on the other hand, made the six-eared macaque feel a little unbelievable. This is an innate spiritual treasure. Who in the flooded lands would mind having more spiritual treasures? At this time, the six-eared macaque suddenly thought of something else. He was hit by the Taoist ancestor and his life was on the line, but how did this golden immortal save him? Seems like he was fed something in a daze? And then he was cured? This wasn't something an ordinary spirit could do. I would like to ask, what kind of spirit substance did you feed me before? The six-eared macaque frowned. Oh. A 9 revolutions soul restoration pill. Chen Xian casually said. 9 turns. The six-eared macaque's complexion snapped. Perhaps others in the floodlands did not know what the 9 revolutions meant, but he, the six-eared macaque, did. After all, he hadn't seldom eavesdropped on the 3 great powers on the Kunlun mountain, and the word Dan Chang 9 revolutions had been recited often by old man Tai Ching. From Lao Zi, the six-eared macaque knew that the Dan 9 revolutions were extreme, and that even as the number 1 person in the flood Dan Dao, Lao Zi was not capable of refining the 9 revolutions of the Dan. However, he didn't doubt for a second that this golden immortal in front of him had told a lie. After all, his own injuries instantly healed, that is an ironclad fact. Non-9 turn elixir is afraid to do this. Then again, associated with Chen Xian at once guessed his origin, but also know that he eavesdropped on the saint's sermon. The six-eared macaque had a bold thought. This person was most likely a recluse powerhouse on the floodplains. No wonder he didn't care about his spirit treasure at all. At once, his breathing became rapid. Looking at this monkey with eyes that were not quite right, Chen Xian was secretly wary in his heart. Could it be that this monkey was going to return the favor? However, although Chen Xian was wary, he was not afraid at all. After 1,000 years of signing in and punching cards, he was afraid that he had hundreds of great Luo cultivation experience cards in his hands, and even the quasi-saint cultivation experience cards he had more than a dozen of them. If this monkey dared to have any bad thoughts, Chen Xian could beat him up and call him father. In the very next moment, the six-eared macaque directly pounced over. Chen Xian was startled and jumped back a step, activating a Dala Golden Immortal card. In an instant, Chen Xian's cultivation skyrocketed, and the pressure of the great Luo forced his way. However, he realized that the monkey wasn't even making a move on him, but rather kneeling on the ground. What are you doing? Chen Xian was confused. Senior Six Ears, I implore Senior to accept me as his disciple. The six-eared macaque was trembling with excitement. Especially the moment Chen Xian erupted with the great Luo mighty pressure just now, he became more and more convinced that the person in front of him was a hermit powerhouse. The six-eared macaque had been seeking the Tao with difficulty for 10,000 years. He knew that the great Tao was hard to find, and now that he had encountered someone of high caliber, he would definitely not give up. Cough. Chen Xian almost choked on the six-eared macaque's words. Did this monkey have bad eyes and couldn't see that he was a golden immortal? A golden immortal was nothing in the Floodlands. There's something wrong with it. I'm a golden immortal, and you worship me as your teacher? Chen Xian asked. Senior, it was me who was rude before, not knowing Senior's true colors. But the heart of the late generation towards the Tao can be seen by the sun and the moon. As for the words of the golden immortal, the late generation does not believe in it by a million. Six-eared macaque firmly said. I'm not a senior, I'm a golden immortal. I don't want you to pay for that 9 revolution soul restoration pill, so you'd better hurry up and go. Chen Xian cried and laughed. I won't get up until Senior agrees. The six-eared macaque shook his head, his attitude still firm. Forget it, you kneel then. Chen Xian had no choice but to pack up his chair and prepare to return to the dojo to sleep. He felt that this monkey would just make a mess and leave after a while. However, he didn't know that the six-eared macaque's heart towards the Tao was harder than gold and stone. The next day, Chen Xian signed in and wandered around the dojo. Why is this monkey still here? Never mind, he should be gone in a few more days. Just like that, 30 days had passed in a row, but the six-eared macaque was still kneeling in the same spot. Why the hell aren't you leaving yet? If you don't leave, believe it or not, I'll beat you away. Chen Xian threatened. If Senior doesn't agree, then I will kneel long under this Buzhou mountain and not get up. The six-eared macaque said, Senior doesn't know how difficult it is for the living beings of the floodplains to seek the Tao, so I hope that Senior will have mercy and grant the great Tao. This time Chen Xian knew that the six-eared macaque was moving for real. He thought of the monkey from Journey to the West, who had similarly knelt for many days in front of old Buddha Bodhi's door. Now Chen Xian felt that these monkeys were afraid that they were not all paranoid. Chen Xian pondered for a moment and sighed. That's fine, meeting means that you and I are destined to meet. I can pass on your Tao, but you have to promise me a few requests. Please speak, Senior, I will definitely comply. The six-eared macaque excitedly said. First, after I pass on your Tao today, you leave quickly and shall not continue to pester. Second, although I pass on your Tao, it doesn't mean that I accept you as my disciple. You may not reveal my name outside, nor may you tell anyone where your Tao came from. Thirdly, if you encounter the Dragon Clan in the future, you can help me out, as a way of repaying me for passing on the Tao. Chen Xian said, if you are able to comply, I will pass on your Tao. Regardless of whether it was the first or second clause, it was Chen Xian's unwillingness to get involved in too much karma anymore. The third one, on the other hand, was to repay a portion of his karma for occupying the dragon body. Of course, if it wasn't for the fact that the six-eared macaque was of good quality and had a strong heart for the Tao, he wouldn't have been able to pass on the Dharma. After all, the Tao could not be passed on lightly. When the six-eared macaque heard this, his expression was stunned, and in the end, he let out a bitter smile. To be able to ask this senior to pass down the Tao was already an invitation to heaven. What else did he have to ask for? What Senior said, I, Six Ears, am willing to abide by. Good. Chen Xian stretched out his index finger and tapped it towards the six-eared macaque's forehead. A piece of Tao Dharma known as the mixed demon-ape Dharma was then imprinted into the six-eared macaque's mind by Chen Xian. Naturally, this Tao law was also what Chen Xian had clocked in and signed up for. Apart from the mixed world demon-ape law, there were also the Phoenix Dance 9 Heavens technique, the Ruelin descending decision, and a whole lot of other strange and weird feats. Chen Xian's main cultivation was still the enhanced version of the ancestral dragon skill, and he didn't even look at the rest of the techniques. He had only noticed that this mixed demon-ape technique had the word ape in it, which was why he had passed it on to the six-eared macaque, not knowing whether the technique was good or bad. The Tao has been passed on to you, I hope you keep your word. Chen Xian said. After saying that, Chen Xian turned around and left. And the six-eared macaque heavily kowtowed 9 times towards Chen Xian's back. Although Chen Xian did not recognize him as a disciple, the six-eared macaque remembered Chen Xian's gift of preaching, and in his heart, Chen Xian was his most respected teacher. Then, Six Ears grabbed the spiritual treasure iron rod and left Chen Xian's dojo, arriving in a mountain forest, ready to dive into cultivation. However, when he used his divine thoughts to open the gongfu that Chen Xian had branded down, his heart directly set off shockwaves. This is the mixed world demon-ape technique. Chen Xian did not know that the mixed world demonic ape law he had casually given was the fundamental Gong method of the mixed world demonic ape among the 3,000 demonic gods in the first place, but the six-eared macaque recognized it right away. Because the spirit of the demonic ape had been dispersed, the six-eared macaque had only inherited the name of the demonic ape law, but not the content, which had left him at a point where he had no technique to practice. However, the six-eared macaque could never have imagined that Qin Xian would give him this gong method that best suited him. My Tao can be realized. He pressed down his excitement and began to cultivate intensely. 200 years later, a golden light suddenly erupted from the mountain forest where the six-eared macaque was diving into cultivation, and then came a long, unrestrained whistle. Sitting in a cave, the six-eared macaque's head was covered with 3 flowers. The great Luo Golden Immortal achieved. Same as the 4 monkeys of the mixed world, Sun Wukong was able to achieve Tai Golden Immortal in just a few years after receiving the teachings of Old Man Bodhi. This sermon ends here, and you may come back in 1,000 years. The position next time is the same as this time, no further changes are allowed. Hongjuan's words fell and he turned to leave. The crowd said in unison, "Farewell, sage." In the next moment, the crowd realized that they were already outside the flooded heavens. The saints' ability, when it is through the heavens and through the earth, my generation is not as good as me. Laozi lamented, after this hearing of the sermon, I am certain that I will break through to the realm of the perfection of the great Luo. And Yuanshi frowned and said, Big brother, when I listened to the sermon before, I had a whim and it seemed like I missed a chance, I don't know what happened. Tong Tian on the side also followed, yes. I also have this feeling. Laozi mused for a moment, he actually felt it as well, but only said, chance cannot be forced. Hearing this, Tong Tian Yuanshi couldn't say anything else. Big brother, I seem to feel like something important has been lost. Nvwa said in a bit of a trance at this moment. Compared to the 3 Qing and the others, the gourd vine and the resting soil were the things that she would use to prove her path in the future, making them especially important. So her feelings would be even stronger. What important things have been lost? Fushi's brows furrowed before he began to divine for Nvwa. After being slapped in the face twice, how could he dare to say that he was unrivaled in counting again? But after a while, he found that the heavenly chance was chaotic, and he actually couldn't calculate anything. Could it be that this brother Chen is my nemesis? Why can't I count after he appeared? Fushi was a bit annoyed and fell into self-doubt for a while. Brother, what did you say? Nvwa asked. Nothing. Fushi said, little sister, I didn't calculate anything either, so let's ask the saints when we preach next time. Nvwa immediately lit up. However, what she thought of was not Hongjun, but Chen Xian, who was at the foot of Buzhou Mountain. Brother Chen could know about the flood without leaving his home, he would definitely know what chance he had lost. And 4,000 years have not seen, she strange Miss Chen brother. But just at this moment, 2 silhouettes walked over. Greetings to Fushi Nvwa, 2 fellow Taoists. It's the 2 fellow Taoists Di Jun and Dong Wang. What is the matter with you guys? Fushi returned. Nothing much, just want to liaise with the 2 fellow Taoists, we are of the same demon race, we should support each other. Di Jun said. Nvwa, who generally hated socializing, stayed right behind Fushi and didn't say anything. However, she could clearly feel that there was a line of sight that had been watching her, making her very uncomfortable. The owner of that line of sight was the Eastern Emperor Tai Chi. As it should be. For the 2 great powers born from the Sun Star, Fushi couldn't talk about any feelings of disgust. Also being of the demon race, they were instead more intimate. After exchanging pleasantries for a few moments, the 2 parties parted ways. Watching the Eastern Emperor gaze at the backs of the siblings as they left for a long time, Di Jun smiled, knowing that his brother was interested in Nvwa. Buzhou Mountain Nvwa has extraordinary talent, she's a good candidate to be a Taoist couple. Do you want me to propose marriage to Fushi some other time? Di Jun said. There's no rush, when I attain the Tao in another day, I'm not afraid that Nvwa won't fall in love. Dong Huang Tai confidently said. Good. Emperor Jun laughed twice. He was still afraid that his brother would be trapped by love, but it seemed that he had been overly concerned. Then Di Jun's eyes flashed as he said, now what we need to do is to gather the demon race and achieve something great. I heard that while we were listening to the sermon, a divine ape of the Delo realm descended from the south, I'll go and recruit some. On the other side, the 2 of them, Junti and Jain, also left the purple heavenly palace. Senior brother, the eastern land is truly vast, no matter whether it's spiritual treasures and plants or living beings, it's countless times stronger than that western part of us. If we can transport all of them back, my west will definitely prosper greatly. Junti said enviously. Guiding sighed with a pained expression. Revitalizing the West is the duty of you and I. We have to find a way to extradite all the Eastern spirits and talents to the West. For the next 10,000 years, we won't go back. Good. Junti bowed, and the 2 of them turned into recluse light and traveled far away. Under the Buzhou mountain, Chen Xian counted the days. 4,000 years had passed, and the little Nvwa girl was about to return. At that moment, he then suddenly heard a shout. "Old brother White Dragon, are you there?" Chen Xian hurriedly got up, then looked outside to see a bare-chested man walking over carrying a demonic beast that looked like a sheep. White Dragon was the Dao name Chen Xian had given himself. "Big brother Dizu, what brings you here?" Chen Xian said with some surprise. This big man was another friend that Chen Xian had made besides Nvwa. It was a sorcerer named Dizu. Although he was rough-looking, he was quite righteous. When the two had met by chance, this Dizu brother's favorite food was the roasted meat made by Chen Xian. After a while, he would come to find Chen Xian. But this time, it had been a full few thousand years between visits, so I don't know what's going on.